Hi, hello, and welcome in our video. In this video, we will be talking about copying and cloning artifacts and modules between components and about reusing modules in the component. We already created video about copying and reusing artifacts in the same component, and I think it would be beneficial for you if you saw that video first. Let's start with the question, why is copying and cloning artifacts between components beneficial? Well, it's very easy. In the beginning of the project, you may work in one large component. But later, you may reorganize your artifacts and create some component strategy. You can create other components to represent smaller logical or physical pieces of your project. Then, you can reorganize the artifact across those components by either cloning or copying them. When we were talking about the differences between copying and reusing artifacts in the same component, the differences were huge. But when we are talking about copying and cloning and differences between them, the differences are very subtle. Both of them can copy most artifacts between projects, including collection, modules, embedded artifacts, and diagrams, and both cannot copy, for example, tags and comments. But when you are copying module or copying artifact between components, you are doing exactly the same as in the component. So we are creating new artifact with the new artifact ID, and none of the changes are propagated. Cloning, however, is creating the artifact with the same ID, so it started looking like reusing, but changes are not propagated. All changes you make are saved only in the artifact where you made the change. Another difference is when you are copying between project areas, that when you are copying between project areas, both project areas needs to have same settings. They are both configuration management enabled or configuration management disabled. When you are cloning artifacts between project areas, both of the components or both of the project areas needs to be configuration management enabled, because we will see that for cloning you need chain set, and to create chain set you need to have configuration management enabled. So artifact ID and the same URL is difference number one between cloning and copying, because when copying you have new artifact ID and new artifact URL, and this was the second difference. The last thing you need to know before we jump to the exercise is that when you are copying or cloning artifacts, the target project must contain the same artifact types as the source artifacts that are being copied. Otherwise, no artifact will be copied. And if the target project does not contain the same artifact attributes, so before it was artifact types, now I am talking about artifact attributes, then the source artifacts are copied, but the attribute values are not. So if you don't have the same artifact types, no artifacts will be copied. If you don't have the same artifact attributes, the artifacts are copied, but without attributes and those attribute values. All right, let's now jump directly to the exercise. So I am in training project and I would like to copy some artifact or the whole module. The process is exactly the same, so we don't need to show both. For example, I would like to have this artifact in the main training project folder. I will right click and you see I can copy from a component, but I don't have option to clone from the component. Why? Because you see, create or switch to a chain set in order to use this operation. So as I already mentioned, to clone from the component, you need to create chain set. And now if I will do the same, I can copy and clone. So that was the reason. I am a huge proponent of using chain set, so I am glad you need to create chain set in order to have cloning functionality or possibility. All right, so to clone from component, again, right click, select clone from component and select component. You see here training project is with space, here training project is without space. So this is different component and I will use training project initial stream. Okay, next, and you see you can add collection, add whole module or add artifact or folder. I would like to add just artifact and I will search for one special artifact, for example, this lowest operation temperature. Okay, and Okay, finish. Okay, this was expected. Why? Because I deliberately chose artifact that has different artifact type and attributes. So I was not able to clone from component because our type systems are different. Now you have different options. You can create new artifact types manually, or you can go up here to settings, manage component properties, and here is import component properties. So I will choose properties from different component and import it here to this component. I will use this one because I would like to show you something new. So I will search for this component. This is the right one. Okay, next. And you see I have some new artifact types and I have some new artifact attributes and artifact data types and also link types. So now I am copying this type system and including it here to this component. Excellent. So now it should be all right. So I will go back, right click, clone from component, select the right component. Next, I will add artifact from parameters artifacts, this one. Okay, next, finish, and you see it's done. Excellent. Now I will open this artifact and I will change it from 10 degrees Celsius to 11, save. Excellent, and done. Now I would like to see history and not only this change, but also where this artifact is coming from. Because I said that if you are cloning artifacts, this artifact history is preserved, but you have just textual information from what component this artifact was cloned. All right, and you can see it in a history. So I will go here, open history. I will click on audit history and on this one. And you see, copied or cloned from component. So it's from training project and from training project initial stream. And also important, I made a change. So this change is reflected here. I changed from minus 10 degrees to minus 11 degrees Celsius. All right, now if IBM documentation is correct, if I will copy some artifact, it shouldn't be able to see where it was copied from. So let's see if they are correct. I will jump back and I will use now copy from a component. I will select the same component as before. So you see different component, but the same as before. Next, I will add artifact, but I will choose a different one so it's easy to find. And I will use highest operation temperature. Excellent. So now I am copying. Next, finish. It was successful because our type system is already the same. Close, highest operation temperature, open history. And you see, it's still here. So IBM documentation, it's not so much correct, but it was also apparent from this statement that it's not about just cloning, but also about copying. But let me show you something. I opened the source project, source component, and the destination component, and you see, while lowest operation temperature has the same ID 51964, the highest operation temperature has different ID. What I would also like to show you is that if I will change this artifact to 51 degrees, and I already changed the first artifact from minus 10 to minus 11, then I will go to the source, refresh, and highest operation temperature is still 50 and lowest operation temperature is still minus 10. So even though those artifacts have the same ID, the changes are not propagated. I think that for copied artifact, it was expected behavior, but for cloned artifact, even though you have the same ID, maybe it's surprising that the changes are not propagated. And it's in any way. So this was from destination to the source, but I can go to the source and edit it from minus 10 to minus 12. Save, done. I will refresh and I will open this artifact again. And you see it's still minus 11. So there is no way how those changes are propagated. But we already know that from description and from theory in the beginning. All right, the last thing I would like to show you in this video is reusing modules in the same component. So I will be using this component. I will find some module, I choose parameters, and I will copy artifact, click for example to this folder, right click and paste artifact. I will choose reuse all artifacts and OK. Perfect. So you see, this is copy of parameters with ID 52355, and here we have original one, but ID is 51948. So if I will go here, it's very simple. You see 3 kilograms minus 12, etc. If I will go to the second one, it's the same. Let's now change artifacts here. To make it super easy, I will do side-by-side windows. So on the right, we have original one, and on the left, we have new one. You may also see that although the IDs of modules are different, the IDs of artifacts inside the module are the same. So the expected behavior would be that changes are propagated. Let's see. 100%. Excellent. Refresh. And that's correct. So the initial thought may be that because we reused modules, then all changes in those modules will be propagated. But that would be incorrect assumption because yes, some changes are propagated, but those changes are not between modules, but between artifacts with the same ID. Because when I will create new artifact, for example, I don't know, new one, and I will refresh, the change was not propagated because changes are not propagated between modules, but between specific artifacts in the module. So basically, we created new module and reused not modules, but just artifacts in this module. If I will go and I will delete this one and again refresh, the artifact is still here. But again, changes in artifacts are propagated. So changes are propagated between artifacts, not between modules. That's why I included it here in this video. Alright, and this is it for this video. Again, relatively simple topics because reusing, cloning, and copying is not very hard, but there are some caveats you need to know when you are doing it. I hope I included all major pitfalls and all major differences between different methods, and I really hope this video was informative for you, and I look forward to see you in our next videos.